The Roman Empire encompassed provinces of about 5 million square kilometers. But not every Roman province was like the other. Some were poor, some were rich. Some recruited great legionnaires, while others were totally useless. Salve mates, I hope everything is covered in Tuscan sunshine at your end. In today's video I'm gonna be ranking the Roman provinces from the worst to the best between the 1st and the 5th century. This ranking will be based on 5 criteria: economy, emperors, recruitment, defensiveness and inclusion. So now, without further ado, let's get to number 18, the worst ranked Roman province. Number 18, Britannia. The last place is unsurprisingly Britannia. It was indeed a worthless province for the Romans. Although it was almost a crown jewel at the beginning of the Roman occupation due to its presence of gold, lead and copper mines, those mines were depleted in the 3rd century, and since then Britain became a burden Romans couldn't easily shake off. Britannia always remained a semi-conquered province, and about 3 to 4 legions were garrisoned on the island to defend it against Caledonians, Franks and Saxons attacking from all cardinal points. Not even the immensely expensive Hadrian's Wall helped. That's why Britain gets 0 points out of 10 for defensiveness. Inclusion-wise, Britannia proved its worthlessness by launching an open independence rebellion twice. The first time they co-founded the separatist Gallic Empire, then the Carausius Revolt, aka Britannic Empire. The population of the island was also never fully Romanized. Britannia had no Briton emperors, although some were proclaimed emperors by Britannic legions, most notably Constantine, so there is at least 1 point for that. So all in all, this is the reason why Britannia is last on the list with just 8 points in total. Number 17, Dacia. Province Dacia was in a good position to become one of the most useful Roman provinces. It had surprisingly successful Romanization, 2 Roman emperors were Dacians, Galerius and Licinius, but the existence of the province was short-lived. Dacia was a good recruitment province. Unfortunately, it ended up being a second Britannia, because Dacia wasn't fully conquered. The border between the Roman Empire and the barbaric lands stretched longer because of Dacia's presence, with its northern, eastern and western frontiers exposed to attacks. Even Hadrian contemplated withdrawing from Dacia only after like 10 years after it had been conquered, because of how much burden he saw in it. In terms of military, 2 to 3 legions were needed to defend it, but luckily for Rome, Dacia was soon abandoned in 272 without any major repercussions on the stability of the Roman Empire. In terms of economy, the Dacians cultivated cereals, fruit trees, wheat and wines. They also raised large herds of cattle and sheep and were known for beekeeping. Overall, Dacia was a poor province, although it had a lot of gold mines in the 1st century, but those gold mines ran out soon as well. It's a shame, but Dacia gets only 14 points overall, with the defensiveness being its Achilles heel.
It's Mr. XBI.
No, it is a number at 16.
Number 16, Sardinia and Corsica. Corsica and Sardinia didn't have the best reputation among ancient Romans. Both islands became trivial gains compared to the Roman Empire's other provinces. The Romans regarded both the islands and their peoples as backward and unhealthy, probably due to the long-standing presence of malaria. Overall, neither Sardinia nor Corsica weren't important money-making provinces, nor culturally important, nor they provided soldiery. Although Sardinia provided Rome with wines, olives and salt, but Corsica provided nothing although its capital, Illyria, was an important naval base. From both islands the Romans did not receive much spoil, and the inhabitants didn't bother to learn anything Roman. Strabo, depicting the Corsicans as bestial people resorting to living by plunder, said that whoever has bought one regrets the waste of his money. And also Cicero referred to the Sardinians as ill-disposed. On the other hand, neither Corsicans nor Sardinians never defied the Roman power, and nobody ever bothered to attack them, so there was no garrison needed on those islands. Which is why they got in front of Britannia and Dacia with respectable 18 points. Number 15, Raetia and Noricum. Today's Austria and Switzerland were well Romanized and loyal provinces, provided shit ton of gold, lead and iron. Noricum had the best damn iron mines in the empire. Noric steel was widely used for the weapons of the Roman military. Raetia, on the other hand, produced wine and, believe it or not, Emperor Augustus preferred Raetian wine to any other. It was, however, also a place of constant skirmishes between Romans and Germans. Also, the provinces of Raetia and Noricum were scarcely populated and gave us no emperors or many soldiers. But Raetia and Noricum remained loyal throughout the existence of the empire. Even after Western Rome had collapsed in 476, Raetian legionnaires desperately waited for the Roman officials to grant them salary, only to find out that the Roman Empire had collapsed. So their loyalty gives them 9 points and 20 points in total. Number 14, Mauretania. Mauretania was an easy province to defend. Nomads were belligerent, but not enough to attack the big towns directly. Mauretanian recruits were the bulk of the Roman cavalry army. This is why the recruitment cell gets 4 points. Mauretania provided the empire with dyes and valuable timber, also supplied Rome with agricultural goods as animals such as lions and leopards. However, the province was scarcely populated and therefore not terribly economically important, especially in comparison with its neighbor Africa. The province wasn't Romanized at all, mostly populated by Phoenicians and Berbers, but it also rarely rebelled against Rome. So when we combine all that criteria with the fact that Mauretania gave us no emperors whatsoever, then the province finds itself at place 14 with 22 points. Number 13, Sicily. The beautiful island of Sicily was a Romanized and obedient province during the days of the Roman Empire. It provided some timber and fruits, and for a short period of time, it was also something of a breadbasket for Italia, but played minor role compared to Africa and Egypt. The island was unfortunately infamously corrupted, which is why its economy score is a little bit lowered. Sicily was a safe province overall, although it was sacked during the crisis of the 3rd century. However, it was too far away from any frontiers to provide soldiery for the empire, and combined with its 0 Sicilian emperors, Sicily is ranked 13th with 23 points. Number 12, Cyrenaica and Crete. Not much happened on the island of Crete during its Roman period. It offered elite archers, and the island got sacked once during the 3rd century, but overall it was an uneventful backwater province, although with no rebellions. Cyrenaica, which revolted only once during rule of Emperor Trajan, was much more economically important than Crete. Its economy was mainly based on its vast agricultural wealth, as loads of grain and various Mediterranean specialty crops were grown and exported throughout the empire. Great herds of sheep and other livestock were maintained, and some quantity of precious metal was available. Cyrenaica was very important for growing medical herbs, especially silphium, which Romans used for everything. It was basically an ancient combination of today's paracetamol and Viagra. So when we combine Crete's archers and Cyrenaica's economy, we get 24 points and position number 12 on our list. Number 11, Gaul. The famous region of Gaul, conquered by Julius Caesar, ranks 11th on our ranking of Roman provinces. In terms of economy, southern Gaul, Narbonensis, was a big supplier of wine and was much richer than central and northern Gaul. Other major economical contributions of the Gaul region were glassmaking, metallurgy, woodcraft, textiles, wheat, olives, fruits, corn, oils, and cheeses. The time period of the greatest importance for Gaul was during the 1st century, during the conquest of Germania after the Teutoburg Forest battle. After the 2nd century, Gaul became a region of secondary importance. The Rhine legions were not that important in comparison with the Danube legions. This factor made the Gallic legions feel unappreciated, and the desire for the attention of emperors resulted, unfortunately, in an unprecedented number of Roman usurpers and 2 independence rebellions. Where Gaul also suffers in our score is in defensiveness. Because of its distance from Germania, Gaul was constantly pillaged, especially after 406, when the area was burned to the ground. On the plus side, Gaul was a good recruiting province. In terms of emperors, there weren't many Gallic emperors. The only I could find with Gallic heritage were Carus and his sons Carinus and Numerian, as well as Western Emperor Avitus. The compensation on the scoreboard is the buffer zone, as Gaul absorbed most of the attacks that would otherwise harm richer provinces like Hispania and Italia. So when we add the 3 points for the buffer zone, we get 24 points in total and place number 11 on the list. Number 10, Judea and Arabia. 2 provinces of contrasts. Judea was poor and rebellious, while Arabia was loyal and rich. In the 1st and the 2nd century, Judea was very rebellious, but after the annihilation of the Jewish population during the 3 revolts, it became a peaceful region, although an uninhabitable one. Arabia, on the other hand, was Rome's eastern trade center, and always extremely loyal to the Romans, so loyal in fact that it even became a symbol of loyalty. Septimius Severus valued Arabia highly, and General Odenathus, for example, who saved the Roman East during the crisis of the 3rd century, had been a Romanized Arab. Both provinces, however, lack in Romanization. Either Greek, Aramaic or Nabatean was spoken in Judea and Arabia. The provinces get 8 points for high defensiveness, because the Arabian desert protected Judea and Arabia from the Rome's main enemy, Sassanids. Arabia gets 1 point for Emperor Philip, and Judea gets extra 3 points for Jerusalem, because after Constantine had converted to Christianity early in the 4th century, a new era of importance began for Judea. The emperor himself built a magnificent church on the site of the Holy Sepulchre, the most sacred of Christian holy places. Number 9, Thrace and Macedon. This region was often sacked by Goths, Visigoths and Huns during the late antiquity. Both Galerius and Licinius had Thracian heritage, but surprisingly there were no other Roman emperors from Thrace or Macedon. Interestingly enough, although Thracians were known to be wild warriors throughout early antiquity, their war ability seemingly disappeared under Roman rule. In terms of economy, Eastern Thrace was economically unimportant. Western Thrace, on the other hand, contained a vast amount of pasture land for livestock, orchards and timber. Its position bordering the Black Sea and Danube also made it an important trade hub for west to east caravans and shipments, especially thanks to Via Egnatia Road, which was a major trade route between the west and the east. The region deserves 3+3 extra points for being a buffer zone, absorbing attacks that would otherwise endanger Anatolia and Achaia. The importance of Thrace also grew with the foundation of Constantinople in 330. This is what the other 3 extra points are for, making a total of 26 points and number 9 on this list. Number 8. Greek region Epirus and Achaia. Greece was one of the most prestigious and sought-after provinces for senators to govern. Athens was the primary center of education for the imperial elite. Greek people were also widely employed as tutors, educators, and doctors throughout the Roman Empire. Achaia's exports were wine, cheese, olives, honey, and oil. But Achaia's main economic strength laid in manufacture of luxury items like perfumes, cosmetics, pottery, paints, furniture, and sculptures. Epirus was a poorer province in comparison with Achaia. Its economy was based on copper and silver mines that were extracted from the northern mountains. The Greek region was rarely sacked because Thrace and Illyria absorbed most of the attacks, so Epirus and Achaia were easy to defend. But also due to the presence of Illyria, it wasn't the number one place to get good recruits for the Roman army, although the citizens of the province managed to form armed militias in times of need. Even though Greek region gave us no ancient emperors whatsoever, they remained loyal to the empire throughout its history, and in total, Greek region gets 28 points in total. Number 7. Hispania. In Hispania, the southern part, Baetica, was economically the most important. It had the most Roman colonies. The south of Iberian Peninsula was also agriculturally rich, providing the export of wine, olive oil, and wool. In the north, on the other hand, you could find gold mines, the largest in the Roman Empire. Unfortunately, over time gold started to run out and northern Hispania was no longer economically viable. Hispania was a very stable region. Only one legion was needed to maintain peace in the province, and it got almost no usurpers or rebellions. Although Hispania joined the Gallic Empire rebellion in the 3rd century, but for a very short period of time. Also, given the distance between Hispania and barbaric lands, it was rarely pillaged. Ironically, it was one of the first provinces that was lost to barbarians in the 5th century. Emperors from Hispania were Trajan, Hadrian, and Theodosius the Great, which boosts the number of emperors score to 7 with 29 points in total. Number 6. Anatolia. Merged provinces of Asia, Lydia, Cilicia, Cappadocia, and Pontus. Anatolia had a lot of gold and silver mines and provided the empire with a lot of coins. It also supplied some wheat, lots of livestock, wine, olive oil, timber, and marble, and there were plenty of slave markets. It was one of the few provinces that kept the state budget positive, famous also for sheep breeding, parchment production, and iron from Tarsus Mountains. Fabric from Anatolia was considered the best in the empire. The most valuable part of Anatolia was Asia Minor, the western part of Anatolia. Unfortunately, when Anatolia got hit by the Antonine Plague and then sacked by Goths, it resulted in a loss of its economical potential. In terms of defensiveness, its mountains, however, created an almost impenetrable wall between Syria and the Danubian provinces. It was pretty darn hard to attack mountainous Anatolia. Surprisingly, not many emperors came from Anatolia. Eastern Emperor Zeno was born in Cilicia, and Julian had Anatolian heritage from his mother, which results in 2 points. The region of Anatolia was never fully Romanized. On the other hand, they were the driving force of Christianity. In combination with the fact that the region wasn't rebellious Anatolia deserves 8 points for inclusion and 30 points in total. Number 5, Syria. Syria was like a beautiful girlfriend with a well-paid job that however requires high maintenance. Syria was a profitable province, a lot of trade routes went through it. It was a #1 supplier of olive oil. The province also supplied expensive purple dye and expensive timber, and resins, some wool, linen, pottery, glass, fruits and grain. Militarily, Syrian archers were considered the best. The bows, constructed from a combination of wood, sinew and animal horn, were far more effective than traditional bows. The other reason for having a high recruitment score is of course the large number of Eastern legionnaires who were mainly recruited from Syria. When we look at the emperor's column, we have Maxentius of Syrian mother, 3 sons of Constantine, Constance, Constantine II and Constantius II, but unfortunately also Elagabalus and Caracalla. Also Syria gave Rome many usurpers, most notably Zenobia. Another reason why it isn't higher on the list that it was geographically difficult to defend Syria against Persians. But overall Syria gets 31 points and number 5 on our list. Number 4, Africa and Tripolitania region. Carthaginian state in Africa was a pain in the ass for ancient Romans. It took them over 100 years to conquer it, but it paid off in the long run. Today, Tunisia and Libya provided about 30% of the grain dole to the Roman Empire. In addition, Africa supplied a lot of wine, timber, marble, wool, pottery, livestock, and exotic animals. Africa was the main grain supplier of the city of Rome after the founding of Constantinople in AD 330, and its capture in the 5th century by Vandals proved to be a disaster for the Western Roman Empire. The granary of Rome therefore deserves 5 extra points. In terms of defense, it was an easy region to defend, because the nomadic tribes indeed attacked African provinces from time to time, but did not dare to attack big cities directly. Counts of Africa and Tripolitania, not very obedient provinces. Similar to Mauretania, Africa deserves 4 points for recruitment, because the bulk of Roman cavalry was from Africa. Emperor Septimius Severus and Gordian dynasty are worth of 4 points and 32 points in total, which results in being a number 4 on the list. Number 3, Egypt. Egypt was a very important economic province of the Roman Empire. It provided the Roman Empire with a lot of grain and a lot of trade tax revenue. Egypt supplied the empire with about 60% of the grain dole. It was the main grain supplier of the city of Rome and then of Constantinople. Much of the trade was in Indian spices and African ivory. The province also had a few gold mines and emerald mines. Since Nubia, south of Egypt, caused no problems to the Romans, Egypt required no effort to be defended. But this applied only if Syria was secured. When, for example, Zenobia and the Palmyrian Empire defied Rome and attacked Egypt, the province was conquered without putting up a fight. Cons of Egypt were that Egypt did not provide any military for Rome, and also it was kind of always independentish, never fully incorporated into Roman Empire. Even with Christianity, they had their own Coptic church, and for governors, it was a difficult province to control due to constant skirmishes between Greeks and Jews. But overall, it was a very important economic province. It gets 32 points and number 3 on our list. Number 2, Italia. Obviously, the province of Italia was important as it held the capital of the empire. It was a heavily urbanized province, the number 1 provider of wine, and also produced some quantities of olive oil and marble. It was the biggest money-making province in the empire with the largest GDP. Recruitment of Italian citizens was however low between the 1st and the 5th century because Italians outsourced their military to other provinces. Italians were rarely recruited to the army after the 2nd century, the reason being that they were generally perceived as too weak for military service. In terms of defensiveness, Italia may have been well protected by the Alps against barbarians, but the mountain range wasn't 100% impenetrable, as Italy got sacked multiple times throughout the 2nd, 3rd and the 5th century. Why isn't Italia number 1? Well, as power shifted from city of Rome to the legions in the 2nd and the 3rd century, Italy became unimportant. It became a place with a ceremonial capital only. New capitals became places where emperors currently dwelt. Later Roman emperors didn't even bother to visit Rome. Diocletian visited it once during his 20-year reign, Constantine the Great only twice. Of course, the region gets a lot of points for the emperor column: Augustus, Claudius, Vespasian, Antoninus Pius, Marcus Aurelius, but it also had either very controversial or straight bad emperors as Commodus, Caligula, Nero, Tiberius, Vitellius, and Domitian. When we count all points, we get 35 points in total, and the rank number 2. And number 1 goes to one and only Illyria region, aka Dalmatia and Pannonia. The region gave us an exceptional generals and emperors during the time of crisis: Decius, Claudius II, Aurelian, Probus, Diocletian, Constantine, Valentinian I, along with the best soldiers in the entire empire, like the Dalmatian cavalry, which was an elite unit in the Roman army. The best soldiers from the 2nd century on were recruited from the Danube region provinces, Pannonia and Dalmatia. Illyrian frontline soldiers defended the empire after Italians had yielded up. Illyria was also first on the line when the barbarians attacked the empire. It absorbed most of the barbaric attacks while defending the richer provinces such as Italia and Achaia. In terms of economy, except in the mountainous districts, Illyria was fairly productive when it wasn't being attacked, especially after the great forests had been cleared by Probus and Galerius. Exports included timber, oats, barley, iron and silver mining. Region was also famous for breeding hunting dogs. But as I said, the main importance of the whole region was that it eventually grew into the leading recruiting grounds for the Roman armies, and what happened in Illyria influenced the empire more than any other event anywhere else. Except for being a war zone that was constantly under attack, the only other disadvantage of Illyria as the Roman province was that sometimes it produced an unnecessarily high amount of usurpers, which lowers the inclusion points to 5. Okay guys, this is the end of the video, and this is my take on the ranking of Roman provinces. Please let me know what you think about it in the comments below, and I guess that's it. Vale!